Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a nice morning. We're here to show off our newest module, the Chemwatch IFC module. I guess before we get started, I appreciate everyone's attendance today. A little housekeeping. On your GoToWebinar, you have a control panel, and you can submit questions down here, and we can collect those questions for you and get answers. And also, there's this little orange arrow. You can click that and minimize the box so it's not in your screen. Basically today, Paul Benbow is Business Development Manager, that's myself, and I'll be doing some of the emceeing presentation. Tom Hassey is leading up the PowerPoint. He'll be talking about many parts of our presentation and our product. And Augusta Brindley will be also in the meeting, and she'll be kind of available for questions as well. So kind of just real quick on Chemwatch, been in business over 29 years. We are an international company. We have 3 offices in the US, about 5,000 global clients, and 7 of the top 20 Fortune 500 have our product. So we work really well in large companies, work really well in small companies. Anybody with chemicals would use our product: oil and gas, automotive, electronics, mining, hospitals, research institutes, universities. Today's webinar, IFC, we're going to talk about background of fire codes, the IFC product, how we contrast and work with NFPA, the benefits, and kind of the Chemwatch IFC module, how we can create a digital version of what your facility is, your inventory, your chemicals, so we can actually look at things. Some of the reporting tools that really make IFC the booger that it is all the compliance reporting stuff, how we can make that really easy, taking literally months of work and just moving that to a few mouse clicks. We have control area location, hazard classes, calculated volumes, and other requirements. And basically that's how Chemwatch can help you. Okay, Tom, take it away from here.
Sure, thank you, Paul. Welcome everyone. Again, thank you for attending. If anyone has any issues on the audio or video, please send us a note through the questions or chat. Prefer the chat. So I'd like to spend a few minutes and do a little background on IFC, also some of its benefits, some of its advantages, how it contrasts to the NFPA. So to get started, for decades here in the States, state and local governments have adopted model fire codes to be enforced by the fire service. And we've ended up with 4 model codes that are widely used. We're all familiar with the NFPA, but there are also what I call more regional fire codes in use. The Standard Fire Prevention Code, which is endorsed by the Southern Building Code Congress, the Uniform Fire Code, endorsed by the International Conference of Building Officials, and the National Fire Prevention Code, introduced by building officials and code administrators in the International and Western Fire Chiefs Association. In '94, with the creation of the International Code Council, the plan at that time was to merge those 4 codes into a single international fire code. So far, the attempts to standardize have been unsuccessful, and now there are 2 widely used fire codes here in the States: the ICC-based International Fire Code and the NFPA Fire Prevention Code. This has created challenges in the user space, but with any challenges, what we like to say is treat it as an opportunity, the opportunity being to systemize your chemicals management. So a quick overview of IFC. It establishes minimum regulations for fire prevention and fire protection systems using prescriptive and performance-based provisions for both new and existing buildings, facilities, and processes. IFC is known for its proven track record in fire prevention precautions, how it handles flammable liquids as well as hazardous materials. It is widely regarded. It's easy to use and it is innovative while protecting the health and safety of the public. So the contrast is pretty stark. The IFC is revised every 3 years through ICC's respected consensus code development process. This involves expertise at the state and local level, as well as those officials responsible for public safety across North America. The NFPA Fire Prevention Code is endorsed by the NFPA through what's called a consensus standard process. Not as much opinion is pulled in. So the benefits of using IFC, there's quite a few. It provides a comprehensive approach for controlling hazards in all buildings and sites, regardless if the hazard is outdoors or indoors. It serves as a design document a facilities engineering document, that is. Depending on the building's occupancy and use, IFC regulates various hazards that may occur in the building. That includes both storage and use of the hazardous materials. The IFC references nationally developed consensus-based standards. Its own provisions offer numerous protections for public health, safety, and welfare from hazards, including explosions, fires, or other dangerous conditions in these buildings. It's very flexible. It allows the use for alternative and innovative materials and performance-based methods to comply. Hazardous materials are comprehensively regulated under the IFC, and it covers a wide range of use scenarios. That is, it contains requirements for vacant premises, indoor displays, water supplies for fire protection, access to fire apparatus, the key boxes to access the apparatus, high piled storage, tire storage, mechanical refrigeration systems, and many more. It says benefits. Actually, what this is we'll call it the advantages of IFC versus NFPA. So the ICC process that develops and maintains the IFC is much more robust than NFPA. IFC is designed to work harmoniously with the International Building Code and other international codes. It has a defined scope. It doesn't overlap or conflict with other codes, and it recognizes that buildings may not need extensive retrofitting in order for the fire risk to be mitigated. So the challenge, adoption of the IFC in conjunction with other codes, will certainly go a long way to simplifying the building regulatory system. To do so requires a mixing of expertise, that is chemical safety knowledge, the data, and also a platform, a use platform for both managing these materials and allowing users to access them. Quickly, this is just an adoption map. You can see, I think there's only states left that have not adopted it at this time. Since the IFC tends to focus on the management of hazardous materials, let's talk briefly about how they are regulated under the IFC. So the material classification, specifically on hazard materials, it breaks it out into both physical and health hazard categories, and you can see those in front of you, and it's quite extensive. It also defines, in terms of general provisions, storage requirements, that is, facilities engineering attributes like the design, the performance, the construction, and the permitting of these of storage units, the maximum allowable quantities, also the hazard ID signs. These are using NFPA 704 as a guide, and then any exceptions. So what does the module do? Well, as Paul mentioned earlier, we have completed a dedicated IFC module, and it integrates seamlessly with our chemical management platform. That is, it interacts with our SDS management, inventory management tools that sit on the platform. IFC reporting requires you to maintain the following. You need a mirror image of your facility in a digital space. Special location properties, you need to define these. All these properties and functions we've built into this module, so they've been now systemized as part of your chemical management activities. And what, in essence, the IFC module allows users to do is create a digital version, a digital model of your inventory structure. So how to do that? Well, it does more than just show you data. What it's doing is a pull mechanism, as we like to call it. So as you create your inventory, the system's guiding you. So for instance, in auto calculation control area compliance, it's forcing you, quite frankly, to add that information. Max control levels per level, level dependence, control properties, the threshold modifiers built in. So you can see that, for instance, below that IFC pull down, we're asking you at what floor level, well, how are you going to control fires? Is it sprinkled? Is it controlled? Same with the control properties. You can define freezers, fridge, labs. So the referential integrity of the node tree is maintained based on IFC rules. So again, this is a pull mechanism that's forcing users to define their inventory within the construct of the IFC code. And by the way, this includes detached buildings as well. What we're really proud of is the one-click reporting. So the report mode will automatically calculate and display all the required information per IFC. In addition to that, you'll get a quick view, as you can see here by this graphic, of what you would also export the report to in terms of how it looks in Excel. So the report will clearly highlight the control area location, all hazard classes and thresholds, the calculated volumes, and any other requirements. We're going to show you a quick demo here in a few minutes, but I want to sort of set the stage with an agenda as to what you'll see. So the first step in using the module is what we call definitions, defining your environment. And then after that, quite frankly, it's fairly straightforward in terms of how you would set it up. We'll show you some examples of how it would look. We'll go through the reporting functionality and any other resources that we have available to you that you may find of use. But I would like to spend just a minute on definitions. That's sort of a fuzzy term. So let's take a look real quick at what we mean by definitions. And again, this is one of the first steps, actually is the first step you'll go through when defining your inventory structure in terms of being in compliance with IFC. The definitions, well, quite frankly, you're defining, is this a control area or not? And then also the maximum allowable quantity per each control area. Then you move into what we call cabinet regulated, but quite frankly, how is this material going to be contained? Cabinets, lab, is it on a shelf, is it in a bin, stuck in a freezer? Sprinkled system, is this, again, as we mentioned earlier, is this, you need to define at each floor level, how are you going to put out the fire, basically? And then, is this a detached building or not? So that's what we mean by definitions. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Paul, and we're going to show you again, it's about 20 minutes of video on how this module works.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Before we get started, I did want to point out this one little piece of the video and what we're actually doing. Those of you that are familiar with Chemwatch, we have a very elaborate folder structure that allows you to kind of mimic your facility or all your buildings, and you can break that down. I've got this building, this floor, this room, this cabinet, and all that can cascade out of our folders. So what we've done is we've basically added more folder properties. So as you're creating a folder for, room 101, and there's a storage cabinet, or, room 105 is a storage room, you can actually tell that room the properties that that room has, such as fire code, and then we keep all that information in for our calculations. So I want to just pause on this one slide before I start off, so you kind of get your head around kind of the genius of how we've implemented this. So we basically take our folders and we give them a lot of attributes. So when we do our calculations and reportings, we understand how much of the chemical you have, we understand the hazards and potential incompatibilities, and then we also understand the fire code and the parameters that the folder has. So we take these three pieces of information and allow you to create reporting. And to our knowledge, there is nobody else out there that even has anything close to what we've created. That being said, let me jump right into the presentation. Moving right along, what you're seeing us do in Chemwatch is able to take our strong data on chemicals and leverage that. And kind of in a nutshell, that's kind of a differentiator for Chemwatch. How are we different? We're able to create, IFC, SARA, DHS reports, in a few mouse clicks, emergency services requirements. And in the demonstration, you saw our ability to crank out reports easily. So we have customized reports as well. So you can create kind of any report you can just about think of with our report generator tool. Built into the system, we have incompatibility reports, health surveillance, biological, list of concerns, and specific health hazards, biotoxins, embryotoxins, lots of things like that just built into the system at a few mouse clicks. Another differentiator for Chemwatch is basically we have kind of the trifecta. We have really strong data. We have a really good team of experts in our locations around the world, about 70 experts in chemicals. And we also have a very strong platform. We use Amazon Web Services. AWS is kind of the abbreviation for that. So we have all of our software and systems in Amazon, and people really like that. IT departments really like that. It makes it very scalable, so we can grow from small companies to big companies, depending on your needs. Everything is plug and play in Chemwatch. So if you just want this module or these three modules or all the modules, we can kind of easily create a custom solution for you. Everything is written in .NET, so it's very easy for application third-party programmers to come in and either get data or give data to Chemwatch. Everything is software as a service, cloud-based, so the IT departments really like us. There's very little for them to do other than set up the users. We do support single sign-on, that's a frequently asked questions, so we can integrate into your existing system and it'll be transparent to your users. And like I said, we have a very strong web service API or application programming interface, so we can push data back and forth, via programmers. Another thing that makes us unique is, we just have really strong data. We have over 30 million vendor safety data sheets in our database. We have about 350,000 gold SDSs, which is our reauthored SDSs. And with those, we have about over 300 data points. And using that, we can convert a gold SDS between 47 languages and 93 countries at a few mouse clicks. Everything is real-time linked to our regulatory database, so we can tell you instantly if you have a chemical that's on a list of concern or in a regulatory list somewhere. So because we have the world's largest chemical regulatory database in the same servers as your SDS database, we're able to basically leverage these two against each other. And I have another slide that talks a little more about that, but our regulatory database on its own is a very strong product. 6,200 regulatory databases, almost like lists of lists, from over 90 countries. So if you're curious, can I have a product? Can I ship it to this country? If my product's in this country, is it going to be in a regulatory concern? Because my product in this country uses this chemical, is that going to be okay? We can give you that information very quickly. And we have over 1.5 million substances organized into 800,000 chemical families. And we also have a very strong GHS classification database. So people that author SDSs or need to know a lot of information, we have very good information on about 250,000 chemicals and substances. I mentioned that we, basically link SDS ingredients to the database. Well, another benefit of Chemwatch is we actually go a little deeper. When we take a vendor SDS, we try to put the sub-ingredients in there. A gold SDS, all the chemicals all the way through the SDS have been fitted. So we know that this ingredient may have these 5 chemicals, and then we may have 6 ingredients. So in total, you have like 30 ingredients, even though there's only 5 things. Well, we basically go all the way down the tree and can tell you that. On a vendor SDS, we do the best we can, and sometimes we go down the tree depending on what the chemical is. But that being said, we have the best ability to link to our regulatory database to let you know if you have chemicals that are on a list of concern, and then if that regulatory compliance were to change, you would get an alert to that. So everything is linked, and we will alert you if you have a chemical that has an issue. No other system has that to our knowledge. So keeping your SDSs current, is just kind of a bread and butter. I hate to call it a pain, but it's something that you want your system to do. And so within Chemwatch, we do this free of charge. So we basically get your SDSs, we update and acquire the data, we extract it, our chemists will look at it, we put it into our database, and from there we can crank out labels, safety cards, reports, tell you where this is located, make sure you're in compliance. So it all kind of starts with the vendor SDS in Chemwatch. We also have a new feature where we do what we call vendor generated data. And vendor generated data, we actually acquire about 70 data points from your vendor SDS. And with that information, we run that through our system, and we can get full ingredient formulation, hazard classification, physical properties, transport, and additional data that we may extract. So when we extract this data, you're able to use a lot of features in our system, such as labeling, queries, fire hazards, one-page safety cards, report-generated data, as well as web API. So our vendor-generated data with 70 data points is a very strong ability we have in our system. And once again, the ingredient formulation can be extracted from the vendor SDS to allow you to check your chemicals against our regulatory database. And to me, that's one of the strongest features of VGD. We can tell you if you have a chemical and a sub-ingredient of that chemical is on a list that you may need to be concerned about. So WD-40 may not be on the list, but a sub-ingredient may be. Keeping your SDSs current, we have web crawlers that check for updates 365, 24/7. So we check that to keep the vendor data current for you, so you don't have to, always be looking for new SDSs and, clicking them up there. We're actually doing this, and we have a webinar in September that we're actually going to be talking about a new feature. We've unleashed some new technology where we're trying to take this to the next level, because we go to a lot of shows and we hear a lot of people with various other systems, including, some of the big players that say, hey, we really get frustrated because we don't have current SDSs unless we submit it, or we'll Google out there and we'll find one that's more current than the one in the system. So we're actually unleashing a new product that's even going to take it to the next level on that. We can, of course, compare the new one and the old ones when we find an update, and we basically can do the data extraction. So you'll just click and accept it, and then boom, it'll be the document of record. We keep the old one, of course. So the SCS ingredient report, we actually allow you to get a regulatory information on the ingredients of interest and products that contain those ingredients and where those are stored. So in a few mouse clicks, we can give you a really good profile of what you have and what you need to be concerned about. We do all this in 93 countries and in 47 languages. So in the US, we're mostly concerned about US, but if you're a multinational company or you have employees that work in other countries, or for whatever reason, we're very strong with our ability to do global reach. And I always like to throw in at the very end our smartphone application, because I think it's a really good solution and it's very easy for people to use. We support iOS and Android, and we have a new product that came out back in March. So we have the 2.0 of our product. It's very robust. And it's very simple. You just simply click on the folder, and then you click on the chemical, and then you can get the report right there, and then you could share that with somebody else. So you could be at one location, an incident would happen, and literally from your smartphone, you can send that information to somebody else, maybe to a doctor or an emergency response person, anybody, because we use the same kind of sharing thing you can do with anything else on your smartphone via text message or email. Or perhaps an employee just wants compliance. They can just pick their phone out and immediately view an SDS that's within their folder. So all these things are possible with our mobile app, and I just think mobile is a future technology, and everybody's going to it, and we have a very strong product there. So kind of getting back to what I talked about earlier with our next webinar. So on September 11th, we're going to actually talk about our new abilities to manage SDSs. We're using some artificial intelligence technology to actually take the SDS and try to extract data. And our web crawlers are actually trying to harvest more data when they find SDSs and vendor sites. So as we're out there looking at sites for chemical manufacturers and we're finding SDSs, we're actually got better tools that we've worked on to get more SDSs, so our database will be even better. So look for our invitation on September 11th. We may have a webinar between now and then. We're still working on that. So when we send out our thank you for attending email, we'll have the slide deck, and we'll also have a link to the recording, and we'll have another 3-minute video that's basically almost like a brochure on the product. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and submit any questions. I see there's a number of questions already in the chat box. We'll get back to all those questions with you, as soon as possible. That being said, we do appreciate you joining us today. Thank you again.